Well, hello everyone. This is a pleasure to be back. And not even 3 seconds into the stream, and we've already got Squeaky Door. But nonetheless, it's a pleasure to be back. This is a quick little get everything ready part of the stream. So, you're more than welcome to skip ahead to when everyone gets ready. We got some interesting racing tonight. We've got. Oh wait, no. For God's sake. I've put I've put the wrong the race. Oh, for God's sake, I'm just a dribble. I really am a dribble. Ignore me, everyone. I know it says Britain in the title. I believe we're at Spain. Where I've got that from, I don't know. Can I change it? Oh, wait. I've changed all. I didn't know you could do it from the app now. Oh, see, now that is rather snazzy. Oh, that has helped a ton. And now I can actually put a thumbnail on, even if my laptop's dead. Guys, I've figured out. I'm literally like a genius. Well, I'm not a genius, but I am a genius. And the amazing thumbnail created by the awesome APPF1 is able to go on. Oh, YouTube Studio, you are absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Right, let's get this link into the Discord now, shall we? That would be a absolutely astonishing idea. And we are getting readied up, so I've got to be pretty quick because we need to get going. Right, let's get going. I don't have much prepared in the way of an intro today, but nonetheless, hello and welcome everyone back to APPF1. I'm of course Zach Sweeney, and we're for two very interesting circuits: Brazil at the Autodromo de Interlagos and Spain at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. Both very interesting tracks, both incredible when it comes to online racing. Spain even so on the Formula 1 game, so it can always throw a spanner into the works. My first race of season 3 commentating. Of course, we've either had cancellations or I've simply not been able to make it, so it's a pleasure of course to be back. Not the biggest grid, but quality over quantity. We've got some big protagonists in there. A debutee of MX 36 2005, as you can see there, and I've been told he is he's pretty quick. So definitely one to look out for. We'll have a little look to see how he fares later on today. Of course, one-shot qualifying, 25% race. Dynamic weather for the new season. And then a reverse grid, 25% again around Spain. And as I talk about dynamic weather, it is all wet, at least for the one-shot qualifying we've got in store for us. This is definitely going to be interesting. Do they go for a bit of a compromised race, go for a better quali if it's dry for the race, or do they compromise their quali and go for a bit of a better race? I know what I'd do, especially, but definitely going to be an interesting one while we wait for them to strap on their setups. And we'll go on board with the debutee of MX as he hurdles his way towards turn 1, looking for that 50 in the dry, does so in the wet as well, down to third gear, let the car roll through. Just want to be as kind as you can, don't make any vigorous movements with the steering, throttle or braking, because any sudden changes really unsettle the car. Still on slicks even in these conditions, so it can't be too wet, but still looking for that little bit of concrete on the right hand side. That's what you want to brake. Fourth gear completely flat out now through turn 5 and up towards turn 6. The fast right-hander pretty much loops round, double apex, hit it and then go wide and then cut back in and then into here. You want to go third gear, second gear, get that extra rotation, run it wide, get as close to this inside curb as you can, and then just roll it through. Really nicely done from MX there, but maybe a little bit too tentative when it came to the throttle. Want to be a bit more committed, but still P6, good going for him. Scott in at the Mercedes, P1 with Tyr in P2 and Max in P3 with Palps in P4. What a shaken up grid we've got here at the moment with Vardy down in P9. Something must have happened there as well, as with Ted the Red Bull the Red Bull pairing, the one of the only two to stay going from season 2. But across the line, who's going to take pole? It looks as though it's going to be Tyr that takes pole position ahead of Max and Palps in P3. Well, that certainly is an interesting shake-up to qualifying, something we don't often see with Tyr on pole. How well is he going to be able to hang on to that during the race? Nonetheless, though, he takes it by pretty much a landslide over Max in second place. So Tyr in pole position. Max rounds off the front row in P2 with Palps P3, Scott in P4, MX P5 and Bluey stepping in for Davila in P6 with Kington, Vardy, Ted and Conan all disqualified from the qualifying session, so we'll have to start at the back of the grid. Nonetheless, Palps up there in P3. We've got Max's highest ever qualifying position, at least to my knowledge. But MX P5 on debut, 1 second off pole, but only half a second off the front row. So not bad going at all. And, well, this is where the points are scored, or the big points are scored, is on a Sunday in the race. We've got around about 18 laps, and it is clear blue skies and sunshine. Ready to go for us here in Interlagos, waiting for everyone to ready up and get their setup sorted, their strategy sorted. Probably going to be a soft to medium strategy, maybe soft to hard if you have to pit early or something. Of course, everyone on a free choice of tyre for the strategy, and they're going to be fresh tyres as well. So looking good as we go green now for the formation lap. 18 laps ahead of us. Tyr leading the way on pole position. He's followed by Max and Palps in P3. Palps, of course, last time out taking his maiden victory for Ferrari, his maiden victory in general. And what a better place to do it than the home track of Monza. Of course, we saw him take some remarkable results, podiums throughout the last couple of seasons, as well as an on-track victory at Belgium had it not been for a penalty. So Palps coming into this new season, punching, starts the race in P3, and in a Ferrari, wants to impress and do as well as he can. He's got 18 laps to try and make up those 2 positions to get himself into the lead of the race. Of course, a shorter grid, you could argue it's less competitive, but he's still got the likes of Vardy and Ted and Kington and of course Scott and MX there as well. So he's got, while it's a short grid, it's definitely a very fast grid at that. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how well Vardy and Ted can come back through. Of course, 2 people that are new to no assists. Vardy's not so much, but Ted for sure. So be sure to rinse him every time the bottle lid opens a little bit too much and he goes for a bit of a spin over the course of the next 18 laps or so. I'm sure he can slowly get used to it and maybe forgive us towards the end of it. But everyone rounding off now. We're getting ready for lights out here in Interlagos. Weaving around is the McLaren. Getting that last bit of temperature into his tyres before he goes ready. And you can see Palps really backing everyone up. Wants to make sure his tyres are in as good a condition as they possibly can be. Really backing everyone up and making sure that Tyr and Max are left on some pretty cold tyres. A very short run to turn 1, so a start on some better tyres is always going to help, especially with the switchback nature. Turn 1 quickly turns into turn 2, and if you're on the outside, that's going to turn quickly into the inside. So really nicely promoting some good racing there. We'll have to see though who's going to come out on top into turn 1. Tier takes his first pole. Max his first front row start for the feature race. We've got Pals in P3, Scott in P4. The front 2 rows are looking very, very good indeed. We're getting ready for 5 red lights here. You can see everyone revving up. And we're underway in racing. It's a pretty great start from Max. Already pulled alongside the McLaren as they head towards turn 1. But it looks as though Tier has just about managed to hang on. And the AlphaTauri under pressure. Is that Scott up the inside of him? Yes, it is. It doesn't look like Paus has had the greatest of starts down to P4. But looking on the outside of the Mercedes now as they head towards turn number 4. He's on the outside and the Mercedes on the inside. He's using that overtake to try and get around the outside. A pretty good start for Tier then as he controls the lead. But around the outside goes Paus. He's still got Scott on his inside, but he's going to give him the room and he's going to be forced off there. So Paus down to P4, but Bluey running side by side with MX up the hill towards turn 6. Is he just about going to hang on to it? Yes, he is. MX goes in and through into P6 and into P5, and Bluey down to just about P6. Vardy up 1 position. Kington trying to send up the inside in the AlphaTauri, but couldn't quite do so. And Tier with a pretty dominating start so far in this Grand Prix, already 1 second clear of Max, and Kington back down the inside of Vardy there into turn number 10. And he's just about going to hang on to it unless Vardy can do anything down into the penultimate corner. Going to think better of it. So Kington really fighting this one out as much as he can. We'll have a quick little look at the tyre compound choices. Everyone going for the Red Mark soft compound tyre. We've got Ted on the back of Vardy as Kington is very aggressively coming across Vardy there. I believe he was trying to come into the pit lane or trying to defend, but he's going to cost Vardy a lot of momentum and cost him the position to his teammate as Ted steamrolls his way through into P7. Kington taking an early pit stop then, it seems, and very interesting that that has happened. Not sure what happened there. Maybe he was trying to defend and got sort of forced into the pit lane, but I'm sure he's going to go for the hard compound tyres to the end of the race. That would be the most logical thing to do. But we've got Scott on the back of Max, who's going to try and hang on for his first podium in APPF1, or at least the first podium I've seen. Little flash through sector 2. It looks as though Conan has gone off. He's trying his best. MX on the back of Paus as well. This is turning into an absolute stonker of a fight if they can keep it there. And DRS, of course, enabled at the end of this lap. Scott doesn't want to wait for it though. He's enabled that ERS and is in the slipstream of the AlphaTauri. Pulls to the inside. Looks for it into the little dip on the straight, and Tier sets the fast lap of 1:10 dead. Is Scott going to go for the move on this occasion? No, he's not. Is MX going to go for the move on Paus on this occasion? Looks around the outside. Is going to go around the outside. It's going to be the inside for turn number 2, but Paus trying to keep him honest around the outside. Still side by side through turn 3. This is a great little scrap going on here. MX wants to get himself into the top 4 there. Scott through and up into P2, and is Paus going to be able to go down the inside? No, he's not. The racing point keeps him honest around the outside of turn number 4, and that is him into P4, and back down to P5 goes Paus, and Scott up to P2, so up 2 places already. Kington out of the session. That's going to be the back of the grid for the next race at Spain, and Tier really commanding this Grand Prix so far. 2.5 seconds clear of Scott, who is now unleashed and ready to start charging after him, so could be spicy in the next couple of laps. Don't go anywhere. Lap 3 of 18, we're a sixth of the way through this Grand Prix. Conan decides to peel himself off into the pit lane. And it must be said that Vardy and Ted aren't making much indents when it comes to it. Vardy, of course, 2-time runner-up when it comes to the championship. Ted, of course, the reigning champion from Season 2. And they find themselves 7th and 8th. The reigning Constructors champion as well. And they find themselves 7th and 8th, which isn't the best at all. And that's MX going down the inside of Max. Has a little look, and Max gives him the room, sort of scares him offline. So MX going to try and go for the cutback. Paus trying to find his way through and pick his way through these two as Vardy does set the fastest lap. I speak maybe a little bit too soon. MX going to the outside. Max defends the inside. Is he going to go back down the inside of turn 4? Yes, he is. The racing point gives him the room, but once again around the outside of turn number 4. He's starting to like that move, and he is up into the podium places on his debut race. This is turning out to be a good fight, and Max only going backwards it seems. So the pace there in the wet, not so much in the dry, unfortunately. And the Ferrari looking to get past the AlphaTauri. He wants to get himself up into the top 4 once again and maybe charging after the podium. But he needs to get a move on as quickly as he can, because Max, he's going to be looking in his mirrors. He's going to defend as much as he can. He wants the highest finish as possible. But with both Ferraris lurking there, Bluey of course now joining the fight, stepping in for Davila, and in P6 doing a pretty good job of reserving. DRS open and ERS enabled. Here comes Pavs. He's going to go to the inside. His back's going to fight this one too harshly. Doesn't look like it. He's going to keep it on the inside and try it around the outside of turn 1. It'll be the inside for turn 2, as I've said. And there is Pavs again around the outside, inside for turn 3. And he keeps that position and manages to claim at P4 from Max, who's still in the slipstream, still lurking, but not a lot in the way of the energy recovery system of the ERS. So Pavs up into P4 once again. I'm going to try his best to cling on to the back of MX, but MX absolutely flying. As is Tier, as is Scott, two of the fastest drivers on circuit at the moment. Vardy managing to clear Ted and is looking to get himself onto the back of this train of cars in front of him of Bluey, Max and Pavs. So not looking too far off the leader. Only about 7 and a bit seconds or so, and we've seen Vardy make up bigger gaps than that in the past as we approach lap 6 of 18. Towards the penultimate corner, Bluey lurking to get past Max. He wants to get past Max as quickly as he can. He's not waiting for DRS. He's going to enable that ERS, try and build up the momentum, go underneath him, switcheroo. It'll be the inside for this little kink. Max squeezes him all the way, but he finds the gap. Scott with the fastest lap. Here's Bluey down the inside. He's going to get it into turn 1, but Max has been keen around the outside. Bluey locks up. Max around the outside, inside for turn 2, and hangs on for this position. And Ted into the pit lane, but Bluey's not going to give up. He's going to try it again to the inside, finds the gap, dummies to the inside, and Max still on the outside. Is he going to finally claim this position? Yes, he is. Bluey up into P5, and Max off the road, scared off a little bit, and down to P6. And this battling is only allowing Vardy to close in ever closer each lap. And towards the infield section, goes a little bit deep, does Vardy there. Maybe a bit of a lock-up or just something happened. Didn't allow him to get the car stopped properly. And down to second gear, trying it, trail braking in. Very nicely done. Gets the power as effectively as he possibly can. That dirty air of the AlphaTauri in front definitely not going to be helping as they approach the final proper corner of the circuit. And he's going to have a nice little run here, and Max had a great qualifying, but is only going backwards. Chucks it up the inside. Does Vardy. Does not want to wait at all. DRS open, and he's cleared in well before the corner. Not much Max can really do in the way of getting back past, and probably would be stupid to try and get back past because Vardy is on an absolute mission. And he gets himself a 3-second penalty, does Max, for, yeah, pretty obvious corner cutting there, or exceeding track limits. Probably wasn't intentful, and he's run out of ERS to even try a counter-attack. He's got the drag reduction, but hasn't got the energy to try and push him back past Vardy, who runs a little bit deep, but in DRS range of Bluey. Tell you what though, Max is putting up a decent fight, at least for the first sector on Vardy, but again, mistakes like that are going to cost him. And Vardy on a mission to try and chase after Bluey, maybe even Paus, maybe even MX later on this race. Don't count Vardy out whatsoever. We're not even halfway through this Grand Prix yet, and well, Vardy is looking good. In terms of pace, at least. Took him a while to get into a rhythm. Once he did, you can bet he certainly went for it. And Tier into the pit lane. The first of the front runners in, and that promotes Scott into an early lead, and he gets himself a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Medium tyres going on, but that 5-second penalty could cost him later on in this race, and he hasn't been able to serve it. Of course, he needs to serve it in the pit lane under green flag conditions, so it'll probably just be 5 seconds added on to his race time. And while we were talking, Vardy managed to clear Bluey, and that's yellow flags through sector 2. That's coning off once again, and Vardy up into P4. It's here with a 5-second penalty, really going to knock his confidence, but the pace is there. He needs to make sure he can push on these tyres as much as he possibly can and try and maybe extend the gap to Scott as well when Scott pits, and hope that Scott hasn't pulled off an audacious overcut on him. Those softs don't look too bad though. They seem to be holding up in pretty good shape. Of course, Vardy's managed to push on them for around 8 laps straight and have some pretty blistering pace, so they shouldn't be too bad, as he is now starting to close up on Pau, so he now finds himself in a nice podium position. And who's going to come in now? It looks as though Scott and Is that Conan into the pit lane as well? Is MX going to follow suit? No, he's not. Vardy and Paus both stay out, but I believe Scott is going to try and cover off the undercut, and that is wise thinking from the Mercedes crew. 5-second penalty for Bluey, who decides to come into the pit lane as well. And the Interlagos pit lane always catching people out. And where is Tyr? There he is. But remember, Scott's going to have a much, smoother line. But again, Tyr has managed to pull off an absolutely sensational outlap and clear him by around about 3 seconds. So he's managed to gain about 1.5 seconds on that in-lap, or outlap I should say. And all he needs now is 1.5 seconds. Use these tyres that have been warmed up over the course of the last lap while Scott is vulnerable, and try and get himself out of that 5 seconds danger zone, or hope that Scott picks himself up a 3-second penalty of his own. We've got Vardy now closing on Paus. These two probably going to be coming into the pit lane rather shortly, in the next couple of laps or so, but they just want to give themselves the fresher mediums as possible. But interesting who's going to come into the pits. MX is in, is Paus in, he's going to follow him in. Is Vardy coming in? Yes, he is. He's not going to stay out. So in he comes. Who's going to speed? None of them are, but Vardy having to go to neutral to get the extra engine brake in. And it looks as though Max is going to stay out another lap. MX on the mediums. Tyr's going to jump all of them. And Vardy is practically pushing Paus as they come out of the pit lane. And he's going to want to get a good start, good launch off the pit lane. Try and set the exit up as effectively as possible. Not quite going to be able to go for the overtake during the pit lane exit, but he's going to try and set it up as they both have a little bit of a love tap with the Wolf, flirting with Disaster there. And Vardy looking for the inside. Is he going to get the inside? No, he's not. And Bluey's lost a little bit of time to these two. About 1.6 seconds back now. But this is definitely an interesting fight between Vardy and Paus. Vardy, of course, having some good pace on the softs. Can he reflect that pace and echo that pace on these medium compound tyres? Cruising through, and he's going to try and go for the move. But Paus parking the car in a very nice place. Bit awkward that Vardy can't go outside or inside because both are going to tighten up very quickly. So really intelligent defending from the Ferrari in front of Paus. And Vardy now coming through. Clips a nice apex, gets a good launch, use an overtake. Max with a 5-second penalty, the third driver to get a penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and DRS enabled. Is Vardy going to be able to get close enough to go for the move? He's not pressing overtake, he's going to wait for that run towards turn 4. He's going to look to the inside, but thinks better of it and going to try and set up a nice, good exit. You can see how close he's getting through turn 1 and 2. And he's now going to push the button. He's got DRS enabled. Can he close the gap to Paus on this short little straight? No, he can't. Oh, yes, he can. Down the inside. Has a little look, but more that was an avoidance of crashing than anything else. And Paus definitely going to be scared. And Vardy, well, that was definitely flat with Disaster. And the clouds are glooming over, very much so. You can see how overcast it's gotten in such a small period of time. Could we see some rain? And that would definitely spice things up. Scott making some indents on Tyr. But Vardy and Paus both running very close. Vardy kicking up some grass as he comes through. Flat out left-hander. Using the esports line, trying to open up the angle of the corner as much as he can without getting too much grass on his tyres. Sets up a nice exit, but Paus just getting the better of him. That slipstream is really going to help Vardy though. DRS enabled as they hurdle their way towards turn 1 and on to lap number 12. And is he going to be close enough? Yes, he is. Pulled into the slipstream, pulls out down the inside into turn 1, but Paus is going to try and keep his nose in around the outside. Can't quite get it. Vardy leaves in the room, and that is Vardy up into P4. And very cleanly so. That was a move probably around about 2 or 3 laps in the making. Paus is going to try and come back at him into turn 4. Has a look down the inside and under brakes. What a move from Paus if he can make it stick. Bit of contact between the two side pods, but Paus going to have to concede that one, and Vardy just about hanging on. But how gloomy does this circuit look now from the helicopter shot at least? Definitely looks as though it's about to rain, and Bluey, because of this fighting, has been brought right back into it and could be attacking his teammate anytime soon. And it would be nice to see the two Ferraris fighting. Of course, last time they fought at Interlagos, it didn't end particularly well. Hopefully these two can make amends. There's yellow flags through sector 2. Not entirely sure what that is for. But now as we enter the final stages of the race, we've got Palps now back in DRS range of Vardy. Vardy pretty much left completely vulnerable to an attack, and Ted has retired from the session. There's a crash? That seems to be a crash. The car's moving, or is that just a retirement on track? Nonetheless, Palps has managed to get through, and Vardy's now sandwiched between the two Ferraris. He's going to try and get back at Palps. He's got 60% ERS. Palps with only 30. They hurdle the way towards turn 4, but Palps reclaims P4, and Bluey on the attack, and it's going to be Palps' job now as the lead Ferrari to try and back Vardy up into Bluey, so they can both maybe get some clear air, or something can happen. But Palps needs Vardy to start battling with Bluey if he wants to try and securely take this P4. And Bluey needs to do his teammate a favour and start putting some pressure on Vardy very quickly. But definitely nice to see Palps fighting up there with the top dogs. Of course, the two-time runner-up is Vardy. Hasn't quite been able to convert in the drivers, but won both constructors of season 1 and 2 with Williams and a Red Bull, both British teams, of course. And as they now hurdle their way towards turn 1 again, Bluey's going to try and close the gap on Vardy. Vardy's going to try and close the gap on Palps, but it looks as though neither of them are going to be able to properly make any indents on that lead, and they're practically bumper to bumper to bumper, these three cars. Very, very close fight for P4. And it's getting ever closer at the front as well between Scott and Tier. Vardy having to defend. He's looking in his mirrors more than he is at the front of Palps. Down in towards turn 4. Bluey has a little look, but can't quite get the exit that Vardy can, and he's driven away from him on the exit. Still not quite being able to convert either of these two into an attack. Vardy wants that P4 back though, but Palps really putting up a good fight, and Bluey putting the pressure on from behind, making Vardy think twice of going for a move, because any wrong move will allow Bluey to find a way through. And we've now got Scott within DRS range of Tier, who of course has a 5-second time penalty, and at the moment will be seeing himself demoted back down to P3. Still a podium for Tier, and that would be pretty remarkable to see. But now nothing at the moment coming to fruition towards turn 1 at least. We got Vardy on at the back of Palps. Again, nothing quite close enough to come to fruition. Is Scott maybe going to go for something towards turn 4? He's got the DRS, he's got the ERS, he is closing, but it's not quite enough in the Mercedes. He's going to close the gap a lot though, and Vardy now, as all three of these guys concertina their way through turn 3, he's got 76% ERS, he's got DRS, but is he waiting? We've seen Vardy do that quite often. Is he waiting for very late on in the race, save this ERS, get past, and then absolutely blitz away from the Ferrari? He knows potentially that P3 is not necessarily on the cards, and he knows P4 is probably the best he can secure. So is he waiting for a chance to get through where Palps then can't get him back? Because he tried his best to get through, showed his pace, but Palps managed to get straight back through already. So he's stocking up that ERS, you can see, completely stockpiling it, not using any of it, and trying to bank it up. So that's going to be my guess. We now got Scott, the second place man, chasing after the race leader of Tier, who's led pretty much race long. Scott doesn't really know where to go, weaving all over the track trying to find a gap, but down towards turn 1 it isn't quite going to go for it. He's got a lot of ERS to use though as they go through turn 2, and gets a little bit caught up on the curb through turn 3. That could compromise him quite severely, but he's in the DRS, he's using his ERS, he's closing at a rate of knots on the McLaren, pulls to the inside for turn 4 and down the inside to take the race lead. Tier has to concede that one pretty quickly. He's going to use his overtake maybe on the run towards turn number 6, but no, going to back out of that one and think better of it. Still this fight between Palps, Vardy and Bluey going on. Vardy doesn't really know where to go. Bluey's got a front row seat to all of it. And very deep under brakes trying to close the gap. And Bluey's best bet, I would say, is definitely to just try and stick with him. Wait for Vardy to make a move like he might do here. He's going to look down the inside. Palps gives him the space, but cleanly around the outside, because Vardy is definitely compromised on that inside line. And he looks to the outside. Could have been an opportunity for Bluey maybe to chuck it up the inside, but probably not the wisest of decisions. And now Vardy has decided to push overtake. He's using this energy that he's managed to stockpile, blitzing through it, using all of that pace, tucked up nicely in the slipstream. Palf's defends to the inside. Vardy goes to the outside. Palf's having to use everything he's got in his arsenal to and defend this position. He's so late under brakes trying to go around the outside, but Vardy's going to claim that position. And unfortunately, his tactic of stockpiling ERS has very much worked, and he's going to use that to blitz away and make sure he can't be attacked from his teammate. And here comes Bluey on Paus, maybe. Or are they going to work together to try and close the gap? But that is a nice strategy, nice smart play from Vardy. He's already clear of DRS threat from Paus. I had a hunch that that was what he was going to do. The two race leaders coming towards the final lap now. And we've got Bluey still on the back of Paus. He's, been fighting and just sat very much idly behind. He hasn't managed to stockpile much ERS though, compared to the likes of Vardy, who managed to defend, attack and save all at the same time and keep that pace. Bluey's just been sat idly behind at the moment as we come on to this final lap of the race. Vardy sets the fastest lap, shows what pace it was in the car. Bluey just coasting his way through turn 1, doesn't want to go for any rash moves. He's running out of opportunities. He needs to go for it if he wants this P5. Of course, that penalty is not going to help him, but the on-track merit could help. Or are the two Ferraris just going to bring it home P5 and 6? That would be a nice smart move in terms of the Constructors' Championship. And the Ferraris now just trying to bring it home, and I believe this is now Scott cruising his way to the line. Started P4, had some sensational pace in the dry, and it comes across the line using all of that overtake. He takes the win at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Tyr comes across the line in P2, picks up a 5-second penalty though, and that promotes MX on debut into position 2. And Tyr down to P3, but a podium nonetheless, and Vardy across the line P4, probably the best he could have hoped for, and Paus now across the line with Bluey, side by side almost, for 5th and 6th. The P2 man of TTV, Max, the youngster in the AlphaTauri, took his best qualifying position, but couldn't quite keep that pace up in the dry, comes across the line to take P7. So a pretty good race to kickstart the evening here in Interlagos. And you can see the Mercedes driver of Scott, newly signed of course by the Silver Arrows, or more so Black Arrows now at this point. But yeah, takes a win. First win of the evening. Joined there by the debutee of MX and the McLaren of Tyr. A great result for all three of them, and some nice confidence boost. They're going to be at the back of the grid though for the reverse grid race in just a moment. So the race results: Scott takes the win ahead of MX and Tyr in P3, Vardy P4 with Paus in P5, Bluey P6 with Max in P7, Conan P8, and the two retirees of Ted and Kington round off the grid for the Brazilian Grand Prix. But don't go anywhere, because in just a few moments time we've got the reverse grid race and we're going to be heading off to Spain. Defending from Vardy with front end plate damage is tough. I can imagine so. I didn't actually realise you had front end plate damage. You were driving like you didn't. Well done to MX on his debut. Definitely so. Great result for him. So just a few moments now until we get underway for the reverse grid race. Heading to Spain, an interesting one, probably the longest run, actually is the longest run from lights to the first braking zone of turn 1. Just over a kilometre long. So slipstream is absolutely crucial, very much vital to get a good start and keep the momentum down the straight. And it looks like we're going to be readying up very soon. So we are getting underway, ready to go for the Spanish Grand Prix. It's going to be a good one. I certainly hope so, at least. Maybe something a little bit more lively and actionful than Brazil. Not to say that Brazil wasn't a good race, because it was, but maybe something So the reverse grid sprint race looks to be dry, completely clear blue skies for the duration of the race. Should be around about 18 or so laps. Just waiting for everyone to pop their setups on. Hopefully no one forgets to put a setup on. And here we go green for the formation lap. 17 laps of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya ahead of us. We've got Max on pole with Bluey and Pals rounding second and third, with Vardy completing the second row. Tier in P5, MX P6, Scott P7, Ted P8 and Kington in P9, of course, because these were the two that retired. So this formation lap is going to be crucial. Have a quick look at the tyres that everyone is starting on. MX and Scott, the top two for race one, both starting on the medium compound tyre, looking to go longer in the first stint and then have a faster second stint towards the end of the race. Could play dividends for them. We'll have to wait and find out. But Max, yeah, he's quite impatient. He wants to get going. He's zooming around the track rather than taking care of his tyres. It seems to be slowing down just to warm it up a little bit more. But now, yeah, only about half a lap left to go before we get underway for 17 laps of Interlagos. We've just been at Interlagos. We've just done 18 laps of Interlagos. 17 laps of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. And it's tipped to be a pretty good race. Max is not one to give up positions easily. Palfs and Bluey are both very quick drivers and pretty relentless drivers. And so too is Vardy, Tier, MX and Scott. They're all going to be up there, raring to go. Predicted pit stop strategy then, soft to medium or soft to hard. I'm going to guess it's going to be the soft to medium route. Of course, you want to be on the softer compound tyre for as much of this race as you possibly can. Of course, being only 25%, you can't afford to be on the harder tyre really, unless there's weird circumstances like a lap 1 or 2 safety car that sort of twists your hand into an alternate strategy. But other than that, I'm going to say it's going to be a pretty clear stop, one stop to soft to medium. But here we go, we'll find out. 17 laps ahead of us. We go to 5 red lights. Everyone revving up. We got Max on pole, and we're underway in racing. It's a pretty good start for the pole sitter, who already darts to the inside to try and cover off the Ferrari, but he's already lurking there. And there's Vardy making it 3 abreast, sandwiched between the 2 Ferraris. We've got Bluey on the inside, but Max is going to keep the lead into turn 1. And there's Paus trying it around the outside of his teammate, but just going to hold station for the time being. Vardy under pressure. He's got MX breathing down his neck as they all go through turn 3. And there's Vardy trying to make the most of a compromised Paus. He gets up the inside of him. Paus goes a little too wide into turn 3, and there's MX going to follow him through, dart up the inside. Paus leaves the door open. The Racing Point tries it, but doesn't quite manage to convert, and he's got Tier now lurking and going for the inside of turn 5, but just about everyone going to get through cleanly. Paus down a position, MX up a position, Tier up a position, and we got Ted now with a front row seat to these two. Tier wants to get through on those softer tyres, and Scott has had an absolutely appalling start, and no, Paus is off. He's off at the turn 7 and 8 in chicane. Oh, what an easy mistake to make. Oh, that is absolutely painful to watch. He's without a front wing, and there's a safety car on lap 1, and that is probably his saving grace, is this safety car. Too much debris on the circuit, and he's going to have to come in for a new front wing. And that is unfortunate for Paus, but I mean, at least he's got the safety car to bring him back into contention of this race. But yeah, everyone coming into the pitch, you can see, all going for the hard tyres. Even the medium runners of MX going for the hard tyres. But I mean, maybe you could get away with the mediums to the end. So these medium runners are a bit sort of cut short when it comes to the versatility of strategy, but ease everyone onto the hard tyres. Some gambling the mediums, Tier gambling the mediums, Scott onto the softs. So maybe he didn't change his strategy, but he's onto the softs, and I'm not confident that those softs are going to last all the way. And that may not play into Scott Town too well. And with the pack pretty much already bunched up, the safety car's not going to be out too long, so he's not got too long to get in and get back out again. With Vardy again, Vardy picks up a 5-second penalty, a collision with MX, and MX also picking up a 3-second penalty. Yeah, definitely interesting way to go about. The safety car period, and that's a big shame for Vardy and MX, who are both now practically have their races ruined by a 5-second penalty for collision under safety car. But then again, you've got to leave that space. You've got to just think. Of course, there's no reason to be so close to someone. We've got one more lap under the safety car, and Max is still leading the way with Bluey and Vardy in the top 3. Could Max win this race? Who knows? We will certainly find out. We've got one more lap. Halfs joins the back of the grid. And looking to get underway on lap 3. See, weaving around. He's also on the medium compound tyre. Should be pretty comfortable to the end. And yeah, I don't. That's the thing. We're starting on the mediums. If there's an early safety car, it really throws the whole thing into turmoil, because you don't have much choice. Of course, the rules state you have to change compound in the dry from one compound to another, soft to medium, soft to hard, medium to soft, medium to hard, hard to soft, whatever. You need to change compound, which is always a picky rule, especially when you want to start a 25% race on mediums, because, as I've said, it does really block your potential for strategy. And those who started, such as Kington, or no, Scott and MX, who started on the mediums, had to go for either the hards or the softs at the pit stop, and they both went separate ways, hoping that the safety car would drag out, maybe, especially in Scott's case, because he needs those softs to last as long as possible. So yeah, this is a very thrown up when it comes to the potential order of this race. Safety car in this lap, confirmed by race control now. And Max becomes the effective safety car as we get ready to go back under green flag racing. He has punched it, and he's punched it very early in comparison to where the timing line is, and we're back under green flag racing. What a restart from Vardy, who's already breathing down Bluey's neck as they come towards turn 1. MX in the background as well, wanting to get involved. Here's Vardy to the inside of the Ferrari then. Is he going to get the move done? No, he's not. He's not been able to quite get close enough to go for the move, and under pressure is Vardy from MX, who's trying to get those hard tyres warmed up as efficiently and as quickly as possible as they run through turn 3. Goes a little bit wide. And is Vardy going to be able to go for the move? No, he's not. And you can see MX weaving all the way down that straight, trying desperately to get some heat into those tyres. Vardy going for a nice little switcheroo. Could be the outside of Bluey, potentially. No. Tier also getting onto the back of this fight. Vardy gets a lovely drive off the exit of turn 5 there as he comes towards turn 6 and then into the turn 7 and 8 chicane. He's not quite going to be able to get a good enough exit, and turn 9 really isn't an overtaking opportunity, and Max is absolutely loving this because it's allowing him to stretch his legs out front. Bluey defends to the inside. Vardy activates overtake and goes to the outside, breaks as late as he can. Is he going to send Bluey in deep and then try and go underneath him? That's exactly what he's done. Bluey's been scared off the track, and up into P2 goes Vardy. MX trying potentially around the outside, Tier looking down the inside, but Vardy now unleashed to chase after Max in front, who on the hard compound tyre could start to struggle very quickly. And MX and Kington up the inside of Scott. Scott really struggling, going backwards in this race. Powell's trying to get involved. Tier going side by side with Ted. There's some gravel being kicked up. Max then leads a lap 1 off the restart. And we've got MX trying to get up the inside of Bluey as well. So Bluey definitely going backwards, and MX making it a double podium at the moment for his first round in APPF1. Ted and Powell's. We've got the back 3 pretty much running bumper to bumper to bumper. We've now got Bluey still on the back of MX, and Vardy not being able to close up on Max as much as I would potentially have thought, but he's definitely going to be chasing after this race win, especially with that 5-second penalty he has to contend with. But those medium tyres should in theory be quicker. He gets all out of shape at turn 7 and 8 though. Not at all what he wants to be doing. Got to drive it within the car's reasonable limits. And then coming towards turn 10, again tries to get the car bit in. And then to 11 through 12, a very nice corner if you can get it right. Satisfying to hook up, hooks it up pretty nicely. No DRS of course until the start of next lap. Into the final chicane. Turn 14 and 15, and then through 16. Max has not got the exit he'd have wanted, and Vardy got his timing all wrong there. He had to back off, and that's really killed his momentum onto this straight. Could leave him susceptible as MX sets the fastest lap, then does Scott with a 19.2, Tier then with another 19.2, and Vardy not being able to attack into turn 1 because of that momentum loss. And Max is going to have to live to fight another day in the lead of the race as we go on to lap 6 of 17. Ted on the back of Powell's, but we got MX trying to put the pressure on Vardy. He's going to look to the inside. Vardy defends, doesn't really know where to go, does MX. And that is an opportunity missed potentially that he could have got through. Max goes deep though, and Vardy does that extra. He goes in, he turns in later, gets a straighter exit, and it really does help with his exits. As you can see, that's how he got past Bluey so efficiently, because he just got a good run. And again, getting out of shape through that chicane. And then through turn 9, MX trying to find a way through, not tucking into the slipstream, not defending from anyone, just doesn't want to close up too much into this corner potentially, is going to be my guess. But Vardy and himself need to work together, and being stuck behind Max has been able to brought Bluey back into contention, as well as Scott, who gets all out of shape. There's the Ferrari in front, and Scott on the soft tyres. He's going to be struggling to make it to the end if that's his plan. And I'm going to predict him coming into the pits very shortly, but here we go then with DRS. MX already put into the inside, and it's going to be the inside for turn 1. He's tucked right up in the slipstream. We've got Bluey and Scott now. We've got 5 cars all within a second of each other. Vardy to the outside. MX doesn't know where to go. Max defends his lead for the time being, manages to take the track away from him. There's Scott up into P4, takes the position away from Bluey, and Vardy on the back foot. The second man in the train is the one that has to attack and defend at the same time, and he's doing a pretty good job of it, but can't quite find a way through on Max. And this is allowing MX to try and keep that pressure on, and Scott of course on these soft compound tyres still going to be really quick and want to be utilising that tyre advantage. And he just gets it all run through turn 5 there, taps the back of the rear diffuser of that Racing Point. No damage done fortunately, and Vardy makes turn 8 a little bit cleaner. Yellow flags through sector 2. That's Kington off at the turn 7-8 chicane, and that's a retirement. He looks to have collected Ted in the process. So Kington a double DNF tonight, not the best way to go about things. That is unfortunate. No full course yellow though, fortunately so. So we can keep the flow of racing going. And Bluey back past Scott, who's managed to bind it in the gravel, and he's binned it in the grass, I should say, through turn 12. Yeah, that's a shame for Scott. He was driving well, and those soft tyres are going to be begging for help. But here comes Vardy and MX once again going to try it, and there's more. Is that Bluey off? What's happened to Bluey? There's another retirement. That's 3 incidents in one lap. He's binned it coming off turn 16 and just put it in the wall blatantly. No one can find a way through because of the yellow flags. Now MX trying to put the pressure on Vardy, who himself is trying to put the pressure on Max in front, and MX lost a bit of time but managed to regain it. Into turn 7 and 8 once again for the 8th time of 17, and Max is hanging on brilliantly for this lead of the race. And of course with these two, with their 5-second penalty, it's only going to be increasing his chances. Vardy can't quite find a way through. Max placing the car absolutely perfectly and is gunning for this first race win in his APPF1 career of sorts. And around the outside looks MX, tries to keep the momentum rolling and keep that minimum corner and speed up maybe if Vardy got a bit pinched, but he had a look. That was a good attempt. Max really hooking up this sector, and Vardy wants to get the job done before he has to, before these tyres drop off, because they are going to drop off quicker than Max's. He's got DRS once again, and MX practically pushing him down this back straight, using all of that ERS that he's got left. He's going to pull to the left-hand side, going to have to tuck in. Max defends, Vardy to the outside. MX doesn't know where to go. Once again, there's contact. He's hit the front wing of Max, and he's got contact, and he's got damage, and Vardy's going to have to settle in, and wow, MX has got a huge chunk of damage. That's going to be a lot of understeer. Tier put into the outside to try and get through. MX is going to give him the space, and that is Tier back onto the podium, and there's Palf's getting himself up into the top 4 as well, and maybe in the contention of a podium, who knows. But yeah, Max is really struggling now. That is a shame. Vardy clears him very quickly. Heartbreak for Max there. That was a very hectic sequence of events, but he's going to have to trundle at home like that, and Palf's is gunning for this podium. Max again goes deep. It's a shame for him because that was no fault of his own. He was driving in a straight line. MX just didn't know where to go. Tears managed to pick up some damage. Goes off to the escape road. That's the wrong track there, unfortunately for Tier. And that's Palps up into P3, but a very hectic couple of laps. What we need now is a safety car to bring this race back into fruition. But Palps, yeah, P2 on the cards, maybe even the win. If he can stay within 5 seconds of Vardy. 2 wins in 2 rounds would be something pretty good for him, and that is a Red Bull of Ted going off at turn 12. Just like Scott did, exactly the same incident. MX into the pits. Palf's closing on Max now. Shouldn't be too hard for him to do. He's got the ERS advantage. He pulls to the left-hand side, and with Max's damage, there's not much he can do. And Palf's into P2, gunning after the victory. 2 seconds off after his, well, his very characteristic spin. Can't even say it's an uncharacteristic spin for Palps. It was a very characteristic spin at turn 7 and 8. Very easy mistake to do though, of course. Purple to the first sector goes the Ferrari, and he is closing on Vardy. 7 and a bit laps left to go. Vardy locks up, so does Palps into turn 5. All he has to do is keep it within 5 seconds, and he'll see himself the victor of the Spanish Grand Prix, which would be something of a recovery drive. That safety car definitely helping out, but still managed to drive it through the traffic and not get himself involved. Yeah, the flash is sector 1. It looks as though MX has had an off, or is waiting, and he's actually had an off at turn 2, and he's damaged his front wing just after coming out of the pit lane. That's embarrassing. Not gonna lie to you, MX. Yeah, but the debut showed very good speed, but unfortunately, yeah, it's a shame. Max going again really wide. And Vardy setting the fastest lap, open that gap to 3 seconds to Palps, and is really gunning for this race win. He's trying to extend the gap as much as he can to Palps behind. Scott as well with his front left end plate damage, and on those degrading soft tyres, Max could still be looking good for a podium here. But really having to nurse at home. Let's just see how much he has to fight the car. It just wants to go away from him, that front end. You really rely on aerodynamics around Catalonia. It is a fast flowing circuit, and you really do rely on it. There's not much where you rely purely on the tyres. Of course the tyre grip very much helps, but the majority of it comes down to the aerodynamic grip. But yeah, because of that first sector, Scott's managed to close up, and maybe these soft tyres could help Max secure that podium. He's got a penalty of his own. And Powers has managed to keep it within 3/10 loss to Vardy this lap, but he needs to minimise that. He needs to start making some gains, because at this rate Vardy will manage to extend the gap over 5 seconds. And Scott has closed onto Max, who is really struggling, both really struggling. Scott with his tyres and with his... Actually no, I don't know where I got his front wing being damaged from. It did look as though it was damaged, but it's not. But Scott having to fight with those very much degrading tyres. Max having to fight with with a very damaged front wing. But Scott is going to saw past him. That damaged wing isn't going to be helping him with the drag. And back down the inside goes Max. Has a little look. Scott goes offline, and Max could maybe set up a cutback, but isn't quite going to work out for him. So his hope is that... Oh, that is very wide, off the track even, and touching the gravel for Max. You know, this damage is getting worse and worse as time progresses. His best bet is that Scott has a puncture, which I would hedge my bets on him getting at some point. I mean, surely those tyres are absolutely dead. They must be, surely. But Powell's gap open to 4 seconds. Vardy nearly outside that that penalty zone. That would see him demoted to P2. He's gunning for this race win. 9/10 he needs. 9/10 he could potentially get if Powell doesn't open it up a little bit more. There's a fastest lap for Vardy on those 10 lap old medium tyres, so he's still setting some good pace. And yeah, it doesn't look like Powell's quite has the pace. Vardy, when he's in his beast mode, is unstoppable. Once he's in a clear track and he's got his own and he's flying out in front and he's got a purpose, he's chasing after that race win, he is unstoppable. Tier sets the fastest lap of 17.960 on some fresh soft tyres. Currently sits P6 of 7. But Vardy, yeah, only 4/10 now, and that little dot in the distance is Powell. He's managed to close a pretty substantial gap, or open a pretty substantial gap, I should say, as he rounds off lap 13 of 17. And he's going to open it up as he brakes for turn 1 and up into the 5-second range. So Palps at the moment is not winning this race, just about hanging on. It'll be a very close finish. He's managed to close the gap, just hanging on. And now falling out of that range, and hopefully Vardy can keep extending that for his sake, for Palps' sake, if he wants to make it 2 wins on the trot. Well, over 2 rounds I should say, not 2 wins on the trot. He's going to need to get it up. He's managed to close the gap a little bit, keeping it on that little threshold. He's just about keeping it on. And now 2/10, Vardy's managed to open it up. This sector 2 is really strong for him. Sector 2 and 3. Really where he hooks up the most time. And now coming on to lap 15. He's on to win. He's burnt through not a lot of ERS in fact. And Scott, yeah, into the pit lane. I thought that would happen. He's managed to pit. Yeah, he's picked up a puncture. That's a front left puncture for Scott, and that's going to bring Max back to the podium places. Scott onto the softs for the next 3 laps, and he's going to lose the place to Ted, who gets promoted back up into P4. But Scott is going to be absolutely rampant on these fresh soft compound tyre. 3.5 seconds to Tier. He's fallen down to P6. He's got about 8 seconds to Ted. Is it possible to close that much? I mean, we've seen Scott do remarkable things. Is he magic enough to pull off that sort of miracle? MX pulls through a fastest lap, 17.707. Those lap times are coming down and he is pushing despite being in P7. Shame an incident cost him earlier on and cost Max as well the chance for victory. But he's really done well to nurse that car as long as he can. And Ted only 2 seconds back though. He's not completely in the clear. And with that 3-second penalty, it's going to be difficult. So you have to feel for Max, because that was probably his best chance to get a race win, get a podium, something. That's all been undone through something that's not his fault. Tear into the pit lane as well. And he's going to be strapping on the softs for the final couple of laps. Ted on the back of Max though. Let's see if Max can defend. At least it'll be the on-track podium. But Ted very quick. Those mediums should, in theory, now be slower than the hards though. Running over a little bit. And that's going to cost him a bit of time. 3-second penalty Max has. So maybe if he can keep him behind, Ted can pick up a penalty, and he's kicking up some dirt though. So Max is going to want to stop making some stupid mistakes like that, but you can't blame him. Oh, that's a big moment for Ted there as he jumps over the grass, and that's definitely going to be a warning, surely, for Ted. So can't be making more mistakes like that. Vardy now onto the final lap. Paus 5.4 behind. Maybe a mistake from Vardy could bring him back into that range. Ted just about in the DRS range. But you can bet Paus is going to be pushing this entire last lap to try and find himself back in to the 5-second range. 4 tenths he needs to close. Scott with a 16.7. What was that? 5 tenths clear of the previous fastest lap. So really, really pushing as hard as he possibly can. Ted not quite being able to get past Max. But it looks as though Vardy might just about hang on for this one. 6 tenths is the gap. Vardy needs to mess up this last sector. He just needs to drive it home. But a mistake could cost him very, very dearly. And Ted now with DRS shaping up the move. Vardy takes the win ahead of Paus, who even with a 5-second penalty can't quite manage to take the win from Vardy. And it looks as though 25.4 seconds later we're going to see these two cross the line. And Scott has really closed up, in fact, so Max might not even see himself in the top 4 and might even fall down to the top 5 as he goes in very deep there. And Ted's going to go, thank you very much, get through, and so Scott through. And that is a shame for Max, not even to be able to finish on the podium on track. Ted takes the final podium place ahead of Scott and Max in P5. Still a great result, and the pace was there. Just, yeah, incidents happen, and that is racing. So a big shame for Max there. But we're going to wait for Tier, we're going to wait for MX to finally cross the line. But yeah, Tier comes home at P6, and now MX across the line in P7. So overall, not the best showcase of APPF1, it must be said, but still 2 great races, and that's not to say, you know, they weren't bad, they weren't good races, because they were good races, and they weren't at all dirty. The driving standards were great, but APPF1 definitely seen better races, and maybe with the release of the new game in a few weeks' time, we can see Season 4 bring in the old moments, some great moments, and some new highlights for the record books. but you can see the Red Bull, Ferrari and other Red Bull driver celebrating very nicely on the podium. And two pretty good races tonight, it must be said. But Vardy does take the win ahead of Paus. He finishes on the podium. P2, a great result for Paus, and I'm sure he's going to be pretty chuffed with that one. Bit gutted that he was only 1 second off the win though. Ted in P3 with Scott in P4, Max P5, Tier P6, and MX rounding off the finishes. Bluey and Kington were the non-finishes for today's Spanish Grand Prix. But other than that, everyone, that is going to cut it for today's action. I hope you have enjoyed, and if you have, do make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and make sure to go check out APPF1, the other races on the channel. Other than that, everyone, I'll catch you next time. I've been Zach Sweeney. I'll see you later. Bye bye.